Hey there! Today we're going to be canning some ground beef and some ground turkey. So I went to Sam's and purchased a large package of ground beef. This one is 88% lean, 12% fat. And then I also bought 2 packages of ground turkey. I'm going to use a couple of the big jars. If you have wide mouth, use wide mouth, just because it's easier to use when it comes to canning meat and getting it back out after you've canned it and you're ready to eat it. It's a lot easier to get in and out of the can. I'm also going to do a couple small jars just because soup is not the only thing that I use those in. Sometimes I'll whip out some ground beef to just do like a cheesy ground beef and potato casserole for me and my husband. And if it's just me and my husband, I don't want to drag out 2 pounds of ground beef, so I am going to do some smaller jars as well. But mainly what I use this kind of beef for is soups. I love doing chilies, soups, stews, and that kind of thing. And that's mainly what you want to use this for. Once you have pressure cooked your ground beef and canned it, you cannot ever pat it out again to make a cheeseburger or anything like that. And the texture is a little bit different, but it's not super different. So it's a great way to be able to store meat long term, especially in the event that you have a power outage. If you have a power outage and you're completely dependent on a freezer and all of your stuff unfolds and ruins, then you have nothing to show for it. So I try to do a little bit of everything. I like to dehydrate. I don't dehydrate meat, but that's one of the things I do to preserve food. I dehydrate, I can, and I freeze. I do a number of things. That way I don't have all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. So anyway, let's get to canning. The first thing you're going to want to do is wash out your jars. Ball no longer recommends that you sterilize your jars beforehand because it's getting ready to go through a sterilization process whenever you put them in the pressure canner. So you don't have to sterilize it and then sterilize it again through the process. So just make sure that they're clean. Wash them with some hot soapy water and then you're good to go. So I've got all my jars ready. I've got my meat out, I've got my scales, I've got my gloves, and I got me some kitchen towels to wipe my hands on or whatever I need to wipe up. The first one I'm going to do is the ground beef. And I like to wear gloves. You don't have to wear gloves, but I like to wear them. Completely up to you. So like I said a minute ago, this is cold packing. So we're going to pack these jars completely cold. And I'm going to weigh mine. I'll put my jar on there and then zero it out. And that way when I have 1 pound in there, I'll know. So that one is filled all the way up to the top. This one dried at 450. Now I'm going to do a couple of big ones. Okay, this one dried at 900, and that is equal to 2 pounds. So there's 3 of them. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do some 1 pound jars. So you can tell the difference when you're looking at it now, but make sure you put labels on your jars because after it is processed, it looks very much the same and you may not be able to tell which one is which. This one worked out almost perfect. turned out perfect as well. So I'll probably just go ahead and use the little over a half pound of ground beef that I had. I'll probably just use it for supper tonight because it's not quite enough to put in a jar like this, and I didn't have any turkey left over to mix it with. So anyway, that's it. These jars are ready to be wiped off. So we're going to wipe off the rim with paper towels, put a little bit of vinegar on it, put some lids on it, and then get this ready to process. Now we're just going to wipe these jars off. The rim off. And then just put your lids on. Finger tight only. Now, Ball recommends to not reuse your lids. I have reused them before, but you're really not supposed to. So, if at all possible, get brand new lids whenever you're canning something, especially if you're going to be pressure canning. I don't think water bath requires quite the durability that pressure canning does. So if you're going to be pressure canning, use new lids. You could use older rings, but use new lids. So I use the same rings over and over and over and over, and they do just fine, because this is where the magic happens. Okay, let's get to canning. This is my pressure canner. I have a Presto, you can see here. If you can see it here, it's a dial gauge Presto pressure canner. The weight, this is the weight that comes with it. So I have put about 12 cups of water in this. I'll look it up and put the exact amount that they recommend for you to fill in here. I do want to make sure though it has enough water in it so that it does not boil dry during the processing time. And these cans, because I'm using the larger can, those need to process a little bit longer. So the quart jars process a little longer than the pint jars. So let's get started. I have also added a couple tablespoons of vinegar down into this water. It keeps the hard water stains from getting onto your jars. So just spread them out as evenly as you can. Lock your lid in place. Now I'm going to turn mine on high for just a few minutes to let that water start getting hot, and then I'm just going to turn it on medium high until it gets to where it needs to be. When you see steam coming out of the steam vent, then you will start a timer for 10 minutes and you'll let it steam for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes is up, you'll take your weighted gauge and you will just put that over it. Be careful not to get burnt, that steam is hot. Once you put your gauge on, then you're going to allow your pressure to build. And you're going to want it between 11 and 13. So if it does anything out of that range, higher would be better, because if it goes lower, they want you to start your time again. So try to keep it above the 11. Now we're going to let this process for 75 minutes once your dial has reached the proper place. And I like to go by this book here that's backwards to you. Just show you real quick. So I've used this book for a little while now, and I really like it. It's got lots of recipes in it. And in addition to the recipes, it has a page where it gives a little guide for just beef, if you're doing just beef, which is like what we're doing. I didn't follow a recipe. I didn't make beef stew or anything like that. So you're going to process it for 90 minutes. At 11 psi, that's on this, and it gives you two different directions. One for a dial gauge, which is what I'm using, and then one for a weighted gauge. And even though this has a weight, that is not a weight gauge. I think that's what I called it a minute ago, but it is not a weighted gauge. That is just a weight. And let me tell you one more thing. Canning meat is not just exclusive to ground meat like the turkey and the ground beef that we're doing. You can can probably pretty much any kind of meat. I've got a video on how to can chicken. I just cut up some chicken breast and canned those. You can cut up a roast and put it in a jar. You can can that. You can cut up beef tips for like a beef stew. You can can that. You can actually make beef stew and can that. But there are specific recipes because the acidity in the jar needs to be correct whenever you're canning. So make sure you follow a recipe. And you can season these before adding them into the jar if you would like. I did not do that. I season mine after I get it out. Okay. Now you can see the steam is really starting to come out of that. Maybe you can see it. So now we're going to time it for 10 minutes. Okay, it has been 10 minutes, so now I'm going to place the weight on there. Now, more times than not, when I put the weight on, this little pressure reducing, or not pressure reducing, but pressure release valve is not usually up. It usually pops up just a few seconds after I've put on the weight. But I guess it's really bubbling in there, really starting to build up some pressure, so it's already popped up. Now we have to wait until it gets up to 11 psi, and then we will start our timer. Okay, now I've got all the elements going on. I've got my weight on, my pressure valve is popped up, and my dial is in the right range. It's between 11 and 13. So I have turned the burner down. I went from medium high down to medium low. And you'll need to kind of keep a close eye on it because whenever you do a drastic change in the heat, it can be too much and it may go back down fairly quickly. So keep an eye on it. Keep it between 11 and 15. You'll eventually find your sweet spot on your stove dial. Okay, it has been 1 hour and 30 minutes. And you can see that mine is still between 11 and 13. And I actually had to turn mine down a little bit past where I normally keep it. I think the temperature of the house has a lot to do with it sometimes. So anyway, I'm all finished. I'm just going to turn this off. And then I will just leave it sitting right there until the pressure has gone out of it. So you're going to wait until the pressure gauge has gone all the way back down to 0. Your pressure release valve has gone down. And then it will be safe to take your weight off. But not until then. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we've got. Oh, looky there. There's the turkey. Look, it's still bubbling. Isn't that beautiful? And there's the ground beef. It's still bubbling too. Gorgeous. So now we're just going to take all of these jars out, set them on the towel and let them cool. Look at all that beautiful meat, y'all. This will be good for up to 1 year. Now after your jars have cooled, you're going to want to pick each of them up by the lid after you've removed the band and make sure the integrity of the seal is intact. If the seal is not good, you will not be able to pick it up without dropping it. Now you're going to want to store your jars without the bands on. That way, if the integrity of the seal changes, the lid will pop off, and you should actually check them as well. I check mine probably every 2 or 3 months. If at any point you do not have a good seal, throw it away immediately. Don't even save your jar. And that's it, folks. That's all I've got. Well, thanks for joining me this morning and learning how to can some meat. So I hope you all try your hand at canning some meat. It is really not as hard as it looks. So I hope you all have a great day. God bless you.